Welcome to This Explainer. So, you know what a palimpsest is, right? It's one of those ancient manuscripts where new writing is just layered directly over the old, but if you look closely, you can still see traces of the past hiding right there beneath the surface. Well, today, we're going to look at American history through that exact same lens to completely re-examine our most famous vanished settlers. Let's dive in. We have all heard the legend. 117 English colonists vanished without a trace from Roanoke Island in 1587. I mean, it is the ultimate American ghost story. But honestly, what if we've been asking the wrong question for 400 years? What if they didn't actually disappear at all, but instead simply evolved to survive? The whole mystery starts right here. Picture this, it's August 1590, and Governor John White is finally returning to Roanoke Island. He'd been delayed for 3 grueling years because England was at war with Spain. He navigates these incredibly rough seas, fully expecting to walk into a bustling, thriving colony. But instead, he steps ashore to absolute, total silence.
He actually recorded the eerie scene in his own journal. The really interesting thing is, the houses weren't destroyed. They weren't burned in a raid or anything like that. They were carefully taken down and dismantled. And left behind was just a single cryptic word carved into a palisade post: Croatoan. Now, Croatoan was the name of a nearby island and also a native tribe allied with the English.
Now here's the absolute kicker regarding that carving. Before White left for England 3 years prior, he explicitly agreed with the colonists on a secret code. If they were ever fleeing in danger or distress, they were supposed to carve a Maltese cross above their destination. But he found no cross. 0. This is a massive piece of evidence indicating that the colonists left willingly and completely intentionally.
Moving into our next section, myths, messages, and hoaxes. Because for centuries, a total lack of hard evidence allowed the true fate of Roanoke to just become a playground for rumors and elaborate fakes.
Think about the massive contrast in how this story was told over time. On one hand, you've got these gritty, realistic 1612 rumors recorded by Jamestown Secretary William Strachey, who heard dark tales of a young maid escaping a brutal massacre by Chief Powhatan. But then, on the other hand, fast forward to 1901, and you get this highly romanticized, poetic legend by Sally Southall Cotton. In her version, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, magically turns into a white doe named Winona Scaw to escape a jealous conjurer. I mean, that is quite the leap from the historical record, right?
And this romanticizing, it continued heavily right into the 1930s. Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Paul Green wrote a massively popular outdoor drama about the lost colony. It was this exuberant, hopeful production really designed to lift spirits during the Great Depression. But it completely blurred the lines between historical fact and theatrical fiction, pretty much cementing Virginia Dare as a mythical, fairy tale figure rather than a real, breathing human just trying to survive.
And nothing illustrates how desperate people were to solve this mystery quite like the Dare Stones phenomenon. Check out this timeline. In 1937, this 21-pound quartz stone is found near Edenton, seemingly carved by Eleanor Dare, Virginia's mother, describing a brutal massacre. The media goes absolutely wild. Academics from Emory University authenticated. And then, miraculously, over the next couple of years, nearly 40 more stones just suddenly appear across the Southeast. Yeah, it was all thoroughly debunked by a 1941 expose as a massive, elaborate forgery. Though, fascinatingly enough, some modern scholars at UNC Wilmington still wonder if that very first stone could actually be the real deal.
All right, let's leave the folklore behind and look at clues in the soil. This is the hard, physical evidence modern archaeologists are unearthing right now.
By actually following the physical clues, archaeologists from the First Colony Foundation recently uncovered something amazing, what they call Site Y in Bertie County. By using ground-penetrating radar inland along the Chuan River and digging test squares, they hit the jackpot: Surrey, Hampshire borderware. These are very specific 16th century English ceramics used for food preparation. This essentially proves that Roanoke survivors actually did move inland and set up domestic lives, finally solving a huge piece of this 400-year-old puzzle.
Which brings us to the lost colony gene. Because the most compelling evidence actually isn't buried in the soil. It's running in the veins of a living community today. Back in the 1700s, European explorers pushing through the Carolina swamps encountered something that totally defied their categories. They found families living deep in the wilderness, speaking perfect Elizabethan English. Literally, the English of Shakespeare. And they carried surnames straight off the Roanoke colonial registry, like Brooks and Chavis.
The Lumbee people of Robeson County have claimed for generations, through their oral traditions, that they descend from those very English colonists who fled inland and married into native tribes to survive. For centuries, a lot of historians just dismissed those oral traditions. But when scientists finally looked at the DNA, the results were absolutely astounding. They found a perfect genetic convergence, roughly 45% 16th century European male lineages, 40% coastal Native American female lineages, alongside later African American admixture. It perfectly matches the timeline and geography of the Roanoke assimilation. They are a living genetic palimpsest. Their very DNA tells a layered story of survival and blending.
So the crucial takeaway here is that Roanoke didn't disappear. They survived by assimilation. But what if I told you there was an entirely different European colony that vanished into the North Carolina landscape 20 years before John White even set sail?
Let's pull back another layer and look at the prequel, the first lost colony. We have to travel further inland to Morganton, North Carolina, to uncover a forgotten Spanish century. Let's rewind to 1567, 2 full decades before Roanoke. Spanish conquistador Juan Pardo marched inland and built Fort San Juan on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains. Pardo was attempting to create a permanent overland road from South Carolina all the way to the silver mines of Mexico. He clearly vastly underestimated the sheer size of North America, but he meant business. He renamed the native village of Juara to Cuenca, fully intending to make it a permanent Spanish stronghold. And we know they were there to stay because of what's been dug up at the Berry site. We're talking about heavy Spanish olive jars, designed to hold 98 liters of wine for Catholic communion. They found lead shot and iron wire for chainmail, plus brass aglets used for fastening European clothing. These are absolutely not items the Spanish would trade to native populations. This proves Fort San Juan was a fully functioning, permanent military occupation, not just some passing trade mission. Ultimately, it came to a violent end. The Spanish outposts were overrun and destroyed by the native populations who fiercely resisted the occupation. But while the physical Spanish forts fell, they left behind something invisible and far more deadly: European diseases like smallpox and measles. This completely and tragically decimated the native tribes, fundamentally altering the landscape long before the English ever arrived on the coast. All of this perfectly sets up our final section, survival through transformation, because these parallel stories change everything we thought we knew about early colonization. You see, when later European settlers moved into the Carolina Piedmont, they looked around and thought they were walking into pristine, virgin territory. But that was a complete illusion. They were actually walking into a post-apocalyptic landscape. It was deeply scarred and completely reshaped by a forgotten century of Spanish occupation, fierce indigenous resistance, and catastrophic disease. Ultimately, as this really poignant quote from a Lumbee elder reminds us, DNA tells you where you came from. It doesn't tell you who you are. The story of these lost colonies isn't about people mysteriously vanishing into thin air. It's a deeply human story. It's about people doing whatever it takes to survive, by combining, adapting, and becoming something entirely new when their original worlds collapse around them. Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought to wrap up this explainer. If purity is a myth, and our so-called lost colonists actually survived by mixing and transforming, how many other forgotten histories are currently living inside us, just waiting for the science and the soil to finally tell their story? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep looking closely at the history around you, and I'll see you in the next explainer.